Hey guys, it's your boy Mixtape Banks coming back at it again this week with another video. This time we're talking about the New York Media Day press conferences. I haven't watched all of them yet. I suggest if you guys are hardcore Knicks fans like I am, go check them out yourself. Maybe you guys have different interpretations of things, but I specifically watched RJ and Tom Thibodeau. So those are the first two that they came out with. And there's definitely a lot of little bits of information that would drop throughout those collective 30 minutes between those two. And we're about to get into it. We're about to break it down. Bless up. Okay. First and foremost, let's talk about Coach Tibbs. We're going to talk about what Coach Tibbs wants to see, what he said. So off the bat, Coach Tibbs consistently emphasized team play throughout this whole interview. I don't think there was a single 5-minute portion where he did not mention team play, passing the ball, moving the ball, etc. Right? So now, according to Tibbs, he spoke with RJ somewhat often. He seems excited to see what RJ can do. He specifically mentioned that he wants RJ to develop his defense to get to that next tier defensively. I mean, if you watched the Knicks this last season, you saw RJ was actually a lot better defender than I think a lot of guys expected him to be. But I think he wants RJ to really be a lockdown defender kind of guy. He also mentioned he wants RJ to develop his playmaking and decision making. All right. So he wants RJ to really be the primary, if not one of the primary engines on this offense, which makes sense. He wants RJ to engage and to be able to decide when he should score or when he should facilitate and create for others on the team. And another thing he mentioned was leadership. He wants to see RJ take on a leadership role, which I think is good. This all means that he's buying into RJ. He believes that RJ could potentially be one of, if not the leader of this team going on in the future. He mentions he believes RJ has a high ceiling. RJ has potential. So we'll see what happens. He also mentions Obi. So now when he talks about Obi, he mentions Obi's shooting. He mentions Obi's ball handling and versatility. He also mentions playing Obi at several different positions. So I imagine that he hopes to experiment a bit with Obi and really see how he can take advantage of him in multiple different lineups. He mostly said he's focusing on Obi's defense. As far as improving something, he really mentions wanting to improve Obi's defense. Now, I will also say throughout this interview, another consistent topic was Obi's shooting. Right? Whenever he was asked about Obi, he mentioned his shooting. I think he's definitely looking to have Obi be out on the perimeter. I would say be on the lookout for a lot of pick and pop plays. Be on the lookout for maybe doing like a double fist play with Mitch and Obi, and having Obi after he sets that screen, run back out to the 3-point line. Just a lot of perimeter plays for Obi is what I'm expecting. Now, when we talk about RJ mentions being in contact with Tibbs, and he also mentions being upset about his all-rookie team snub. Feel however you may feel about it. Feel however you may feel about RJ. I respect it because he says it did really bother him, and now he's using it as just an extra source of motivation to prove himself in this league, okay? Now, Tibbs said when he heard about that he wants RJ to focus not on what people externally say, focus on getting the team to win. Now, I think those are both very good answers from the both of them. RJ should feel like he belongs amongst the best of them. RJ should feel like he can take that and add that to the fire. And Tibbs should also feel like RJ should channel that more into team play than, personal play. All right. So we also heard RJ mention that he was working with associate head coach Johnny Bryant daily. All right. Now, we spoke about Johnny Bryant. We spoke about how he worked with Damian Lillard, how he worked with Devin Mitchell. So he definitely worked with a lot of guys that speak really highly of him and credit him for their improvement. Same thing with Gordon Hayward. I believe Paul Millsap too. So he's definitely official, and I'm glad to hear that he is working with RJ daily. That's pretty exciting. And he said that pretty much they've been working a lot, primarily on conditioning and shooting. All right, so that's pretty exciting for us. We know that for sure we want to see RJ improve as a shooter. We want to see him be able to hit more consistently from everywhere. And conditioning, that's great. I didn't see any conditioning issues for RJ, but it never hurts to have better conditioning to be able to really push that pace. And I think that's really where RJ excels, when he's pushing the pace. So that's good news. We're also looking at RJ mentioning he has a long-standing relationship with Kenny Payne. So he's relatively familiar with all the guys, all the coaches, and he just kind of seems, ready to work. If you watch those interviews, he seems like he's just zoned in. He's ready to work. He's ready to make his move on to, the next thing. When asked about Tibbs, right, and he mentions that he speaks with Tibbs often, or at several points throughout the offseason, he mentions that Tibbs speaks primarily on defense and pushing the pace, essentially. So expect this team to really try to dig in defensively, right, and to be able to push the pace. Now, Tibbs had mentioned that when he looks at other teams' rosters, and he looks back at the Knicks roster, the main thing for him is really keying in on team play, really working on playing for each other and building up the overall team play. Because in reality, he doesn't say this part, but what that implies is basically he's aware that in reality, we do not have the talent on this roster that most other teams have. Pretty much almost any other team has, okay? But we do have some young guys. I don't think there's a player on our team older than 30. And we just have, a lot of guys that I think are high character, a lot of guys with specific niches, or, just good roles that they could carve out for themselves. And I think we could win ourselves a couple of games. My main thing is seeing for certain improvements, looking to see what kind of system Tibbs is running, how he's going to improve it throughout the season, how he's going to make minor tweaks and adjustments, seeing how RJ is going to make his little tweaks and adjustments, what he's worked on, how he improves. Same thing with Mitch, same thing with all of our young guys, you know what I mean? Frank, Obi, what has Obi worked on throughout these couple months that he hasn't been in college? What is his game going to look like at the college level? Emmanuel quickly, is he going to have that slow start that he had last year, or is he going to be on fire like he was throughout the rest of the year last season? And so expect to really see defense trying to force turnovers, blocks, missed shots, steals, really be disruptive defensively, to be able to get into transition and play fast. That seems what Tibbs really wants. RJ also mentions working out with Obi, or rather working out at the same times as Obi. So, they're in contact with each other, they speak. He says that he's excited to play with him. So we'll see what happens with that. RJ also mentions having an ankle injury last season. All right. So that ankle injury last season, that is something that we definitely need to be aware of. Um, you know, he mentions kind of coming back from it towards at the end of the season, but he was still not at 100%. But he was upset when the season ended because he wanted to keep playing. He felt like he was playing at a better and a higher level, and he was able to do more for the team. But that shows us that RJ had a little injury. He was willing to play through it, and he just seems to be a really competitive guy, which is something that we want. He's being a leader for us. So those are things that we want, that we need. Now, when RJ was asked about expectations for the team having a limited roster, RJ specifically says that he wants to make the playoffs and win. He doesn't want to set the bar low. I think realistically he's aware that other teams, have several players that are high caliber, players. But that's what we want to hear. I think he's definitely going to be a leader for this team, and we want him to have confidence not only in himself but in his teammates and what they can accomplish if they buy into Tibbs, which is another thing he mentioned. He said we all got to work hard, listen to Coach Tibbs and see where he takes us. So, guys, that's a lot of little tidbits of information that we picked up in those interviews, in those press releases. Thank you guys for rocking with me. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We're trying to beat the YouTube algorithm up, so hit that bell button, hit the always notify button, and peace.